Welcome. I'm Jeff Lyons, founder of Storygeeks.com, the writer of the upcoming feature film American Thunderbolt, and the author of Anatomy of a Premise Line and Rapid Story Development, among other books. And this video is my take on theme. God help us all. Okay. Theme. I hesitate because I've been wanting to do this video for a very long time, but I've hesitated because the subject of theme is a touchy one, and people get very territorial about certain topics in the creative writing world. There's like three third rails that you don't want to ever touch, challenge, or question. One of them is theme, the other is three-act structure, and the other is just right. Writer's right, so just right. Those are sort of the three things you just don't question. Well, I'm going to have videos on all three of these things because I question all of them. Not just to be confrontational or difficult or, a troublemaker. I've got real reasons for why I think none of them are relevant. And theme is really sort of at the top of the list. And this is, like I said, this is problematic because this is a hill that a lot of people want to die on. And they have been taught by the creative writing world, especially novelists and creative nonfiction prose writers, that theme is essential. You can't write a book without a theme. You've got to know what it is, right? You've got to know the big moral question. You've got to know what the big question is, the 40,000 foot issue that you're trying to grapple with to teach. And if you don't have that, you don't have anything. Well, maybe you can start with your characters. Maybe you've got a good murder mystery, but what are you writing about? You got to have theme. And it's always been a frustration for me because I've never been able to wrap my head around it. I've never been able to really understand what the hell are you people talking about? I get it. There are big ideas in the world. There are big controlling ideas in the world. But the question becomes, do you really have to be there? Do you have to go there? Do you have to have that thing in order to write an effective story? Whether it's a book or a screenplay or a 30-second TV commercial, doesn't matter. If you're writing a story, do you always have to have the theme clear in mind? Most people will say yes. And I am here to push back against that and to explain why. And not just be counterproductive and just push, but to give some ideas about what you should be doing instead that will get you to the same place and save you a whole lot of time and a whole lot of stress and much fewer hoops to have to jump through to get to this thematic idea of your story. So that's what we're all about here today. Okay, so maybe to crack this eggshell open first, let's just deal with the obvious, the elephant in the living room, so to speak, right? What is theme? What is theme? Everybody knows what theme is, right? Well, the fact of the matter is, I don't know. After 30 or 40 years of dealing with story, I don't know what bloody theme is. I know the party line. I know what the MFA programs all teach. I know what the writing gurus and the story coaches all teach about what theme is and means. I know there's tons of techniques and processes and machineries out there that help you uncover theme when you don't have a clue what the theme is. But I don't know what theme is. The conventional definition is it's your story. It's what your story's about. The village idiot knows clearly what a theme is. It's what your story's controlling idea is all about. That's why it is your story. Theme is your story. When I say village idiot, I don't mean people who believe in theme or idiots. I mean the simplistic, easy definition of what theme is. And I guess none of these things are wrong, but they're unproductive. They don't help you as a writer get anywhere. So when you come up against this idea, theme is your story. This is for me really kind of the big pushback. This is the idea that separates the men from the boys, the girls from the women. Okay, this is where we really separate me and theme. We go in our separate opposite directions. Because I totally disagree with this definition. Theme is not your story. It might be an idea that's in your story, but it's tangential. It is not your story. Theme is not story. Well, Lyons, what the hell are you talking about? Then what the hell is a story if it's not a theme? As much as I didn't want to get into stories versus situations, I don't see how we can avoid some of it here, which is understanding the definition of a story. A story for me is about a human being or an anthropomorphized animal or object, which is basically just a stand-in for a human being, on a journey of emotional change where they change for the better or the worse. Okay, there's no rule that says characters have to grow in a positive direction. There is a rule, quote unquote, though, that they must change. They cannot stand still. There's no such thing as the steadfast character. I know that's a big thing in some people's story circles, the steadfast character. They were good at the beginning of the story. They're good at the end of the story, but they're just better than they were at the beginning of the story, but they're still good. They don't really change. The steadfast character. No, that's not how it works. People don't stand still. You're either moving forward in life or you're moving backward in life. If you don't change, that is a choice. And if a character chooses not to change, that is a choice. Not to do something, which is an active choice not to change. That's a step backward, ladies and gentlemen. Not growth, not being steadfast. It's being stuck in the mud. Okay, perfectly fine to do that, but you're making a statement about the character. A human being is on a journey of change where they're either going to be stuck in the mud, they're going to change for the better, or they're going to change for the worse, like Michael Corleone in The Godfather. Okay, he changes into the worst possible human being he could become. Okay, so there's no rule about where they go. It depends on what the story is, but that's the story. The story is the human experience you're trying to convey as a story, as a narrative. It is not the theme. The theme might be buzzing around like an annoying mosquito, but it's not the story you're telling. You're telling Michael Corleone's story. You're telling a human being's story. That's the story. So this is perhaps the fundamental idea here about why theme is not helpful. It gives you an immediate clue about how, as a writer, in order to be productive and not just theoretically following the cookie cutter paint by number story structure theory, whatever you're following, but how to get from A to B narratively on the page, whether you're a screenwriter or a novelist or creative nonfiction writer, how to get your characters from A to B in a way that isn't abstract at 40,000 feet, but down to earth at sea level, dealing with emotions and emotional patterns that reflect their character flaw. Oh my gosh, character flaw. There's a cliche if you want to get into cliches, right? Well, that's going to be a whole other video on the moral component, which is essential if you have a story and not a situation. So if you're going to tell a story, this is the first rule to break out of this slavery attachment to the concept of theme. You don't begin at 40,000 feet with, I'm going to write a story about man's inhumanity to man. This is the example I always like to use, and I get very dramatic when I do it because that's how people feel sometimes when they're doing this. They're getting in touch with the muse. They're getting in touch with the bigger picture. They're getting in touch with the archetypal forms that are going to inform their creative mind and unconscious. No, you can't start there. You can't start at 40,000 feet and expect to get down to sea level. Now, some people do, and they do, but it's so much harder. Just start on the ground. That means starting with your characters. Example. I use this in class all the time in all my classes, trying to explain the difference between story and theme. Nora Ephron's wonderful story of Harry Met Sally. Genius writing, okay? Harry and Sally are friends, and they're conflicted about being sexually attracted to one another. And there's also the pressure of maybe we're supposed to be together like permanently. And they're struggling with this classic man-woman thing, okay? There is this thing going on between them. It's called the entertaining argument. This is a term that was coined by Jeffrey Gordon at Writers Boot Camp 30 years ago. And it's a fantastic idea. It's a fantastic idea. And it dovetails very nicely with how I teach story development and character development. But it's this idea that between two characters in a relationship, there is a fundamental problem going on between them that must be resolved before they can come together as a team and win the day. Fall in love, or beat the bad guy to the drugs and the money. They in order to operate as a buddy team, or a pair of lovers, or a mother-daughter, sister-brother, whatever the combination is, they must fix the relationship. Okay, that's the dynamics going on in there are a whole other series of tapes I'm going to do. But that's the out of that relationship conflict comes an entertaining argument. There's something that's going on between the two of them that they're fighting about, that they will resolve in the final battle of the story, whether it's a book or a movie, whatever, TV show. Okay, that's the entertaining argument. They're constantly exploring that. So in Harry Met Sally, that entertaining argument is, can men and women have sex and be friends? The age-old question, yes? Because that's what they're grappling with. It is not the big thematic picture of the argument, which has its expression, by the way. The big 40,000-foot thematic question is, what is the nature of human love and friendship? That's the big picture. But you can't start there. I guess you can, but God, it's pulling teeth to get down to where you need to be. Why start there when all you have to do is figure out what's going on in the love affair, figure out the problem going on between these two people, see how universal it is, and then put it into words that an audience or a reader can grok and identify with, and you're home free. The theme will always emerge from that entertaining argument. If you get that right and you understand the dynamics going on in the conflict between the protagonist and their core relationship in the story, you will have your theme or themes. There are other ideas that are operating here too. But you don't get there from 40,000 feet. You get there from ground level, from sea level. By dealing with characters. Start with story development to deal with this idea of theme. But don't think about theme. Think about character dynamics and interpersonal relationships that will get you and them in the story as a narrative from A to B to C to D in a progressive way that pays off at the end, and we see, oh yeah, we were meant for each other. We can have sex, we can be friends, and we're going to get married. Okay? Problem solved. So that's like the archetypal example of of where you don't go or don't have to go if you just deal with story. Story is always a solution to writing problems. Always. So-called writer's block. The only solution to writer's block is a writing solution. It's just, if it's really writer's block. Again, a whole other tape. But my point being, go to story, go to story, go to story, go to ground. Don't go into the stratosphere. You'll just get blown around by the wind. Okay? So this is my main objection to theme. I don't think it's a productive tool. I think it's a distraction. I think it's a popular writing meme that has taken a life of its own and derailed writer after writer after writer, not in a horrible way, but making it more difficult for writers to really just get down to business. Don't think theme. Think character journey. What's the story I'm telling, the human story I'm telling, not the philosophical point I'm trying to make. Stay with the people. They will not betray you. They will get you to the end game on this. Avoid the meme. Deal with story development and basic best practices for story development. And you will not get caught in this sand trap. I know there are going to be comment after comment after comment. Well, hopefully, I hope there's comments about people who will come back and say, well, I hear what you're saying, but theme works for me. I've always used it. I can't write without it. I've never written anything that I've ever written without using theme. So screw you. I get it. Like I said, I'm not here to pull this out of your hands and you can't play with this toy anymore. Of course you can. Of course people are going to find it useful. Of course they're going to have arguments about why they think it's useful for them personally. Okay, but it's not for me. And I don't think it is for a lot of people because I think it's given way too much dramatic weight, way too much creative power, and way too much productivity power as a tool than it deserves. Okay, so feel free to disagree, but please be polite. No need to call names. And if you have some other ideas about this, please share them. I'm happy to read them. One more point for those of you who might be screenwriters. Oh boy, themes, because I'm a screenwriter, so mostly. So theme is a real important question because it comes up as part of our pitch process. When you're pitching a movie or a TV show to executives or producers, part of the pitch process in Hollywood and even in indie film is people expect you to tell them what the themes are. What are the themes you're having? Why do they ask that? They ask that because they're supposed to, not because they really understand it, not because they really know what theme is. It's just one of those things you always have to ask, okay? Because they think theme is story, okay? So this is very frustrating if you come from a perspective that I am, that theme is useless and doesn't really have any meaning, that you still got to answer the question because you got to pitch. You got to do the pitch. You got a 15, 20-minute pitch, either in front of somebody or on Zoom. You got to answer the damn question. So what do you do? Well, a friend of mine, maybe I'm pushing the boundary there, calling him a friend, but certainly one of my favorite people in the world, in the screenwriting world, Jeff Howard, a very experienced TV writer, a movie writer, did the movie Ouija, Gerald's Game, Midnight Mass he wrote on, Resident Evil, Haunting of Hill House. The guy's just a powerhouse of the horror genre and writing in multiple platforms. Great guy. His YouTube channel, by the way, is Jeff Howard Sessions. Look that up. I'll put a link in the description below so you can go there and watch his videos that he's putting up now. They're great fun, great information. Highly recommend them. Anyway, Jeff, who has worked on some of my stuff for me, giving me advice, has talked about this because he has the same frustration with theme that I do. He doesn't express it the same way I have here, but he does have this practical problem of pitching and dealing with theme. So the way he handles it, And I love this approach for screenwriters, frankly, and even for novelists, I think it would work. But when these executives or editors or whoever it is asks you for a theme, and you don't have a bloody clue where you're going to go with that, just look at the pitch from the standpoint of what was it about this idea that excited you, and tell them that. They won't know theme from a steak sandwich. They'll take it because it'll make sense, it'll be personal to you, and it will resonate. Okay? So that's how you answer that question. That's how you deal with the theme question when you've got to sell your story to somebody. Just resource that one or two emotional ideas that you found critically important, that excited you so much about this whole thing that you wanted to spend time to write it. Express that to them in one or two lines, and that'll solve the problem. That'll solve the problem. That was Jeff's recommendation, and I think it's a great strategy. Okay, so that's my take on theme. Leave your comments. Let me know what you think. Subscribe, blah blah blah. Do all the you know the routine on YouTube. I'm not going to go into it. So thank you very much for your time, and I hope this was helpful. I certainly enjoyed sharing my rants with you, and I think there's some practical, actionable stuff here that will actually help you with your novel or piece of creative nonfiction, for sure. Okay, so I will see you on the channel or in a class or somewhere out there in the wild. Thank you.